What's up, friends? Mike here from Mercado Airwaves. If you missed any one of our past interviews with amazing guests like future Hall of Famer and pound for pound best fighter in the world, UFC flyweight champion Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson,
It's another day at the office, I get to go out there and test my skill.
to award-winning producer, director, and actor Orlando Jones,
Orlando, how you doing, buddy?
Hey, sir. I'm good, brother. How you doing?
and all the other interesting guests we've had on. Joining us today is director and writer David Ferrier.
Thanks so much, brother. I appreciate you having me on the show.
MMA legend Chael Sonnen joins us today.
Keep listening to your show. This is great. Thanks, my friend.
Just subscribe to us on iTunes at Mercado Airwaves. And while you're there, please like, review, and rate us, friends. It helps so much. We also have a Patreon for anyone who would like to support the show. Just visit us at patreon.com/Mercado Airwaves and see how you can get all of our interviews ad-free and before anyone else, and how you can get your business or company spotlighted on the show. Follow us on Twitter at mmercado2333. Like us on Facebook at Mercado Airwaves. Subscribe to us on YouTube, youtube.com/MikeMercado2333. And if you would like to see what we're up to behind the scenes, follow us on Instagram, MikeMercado2333. Thanks for listening and all the support.
If you would like to support Mercado Airwaves, visit us at patreon.com/Mercado Airwaves. Find us on iTunes at Mercado Airwaves. Keep up to date with the show on Facebook at Mercado Airwaves. You can see all of Nicole's work at typingwhentipsy.wordpress.com. You can follow Alex on Twitter at Mercado21Alex. Follow Mike on Twitter at mmercado2333 and on Instagram, MikeMercado2333.
What is going on, guys? We are going to send you right back to the normally scheduled show that we did here on Sports from the Couch, but breaking the fourth wall down, we actually recorded this show, had everything done, edited, ready to go out for you guys to listen to, and the news broke. The Chicago Blackhawks have fired coach Joe Quenneville, and obviously this has really shaken the sports world in Chicago. Nobody really saw this coming right now. The rumor has been that the Blackhawks have been looking for a reason to fire Coach Q, and it just seems like this 5-game losing streak was the catalyst that they needed to make this move. For all you guys wondering, Jeremy Colton has been named the interim head coach at this time. The front office really didn't make a lot of moves for Q to work with this past season, but after 3 Stanley Cups and one of the best periods in Blackhawks history, it officially has come to a close as the Chicago Blackhawks have fired coach Joe Quenneville. We'll have more on this on the next episode of Sports from the Couch. This breaking literally minutes after we finish recording this past episode. So stick with us on all over social media at mmercado2333 on Twitter and on Facebook at Mercado Airwaves to see up to date any news that we have coming from the Chicago Blackhawks. But for all you just joining us right now, the Chicago Blackhawks have fired coach Joe Quenneville.
If you would like to support Mercado Airwaves, visit us at patreon.com/Mercado Airwaves. Find us on iTunes at Mercado Airwaves. Keep up to date with the show on Facebook at Mercado Airwaves. You can see all of Nicole's work at typingwhentipsy.wordpress.com. You can follow Alex on Twitter at Mercado21Alex. Follow Mike on Twitter at mmercado2333 and on Instagram, MikeMercado2333.
What is going on, friends? Welcome into another episode of Sports from the Couch here on Mercado Airwaves. I'm your host, Mike Mercado, and I want to thank you guys so much for making us a part of your day. You can follow us all over social media. I'm on Twitter at mmercado2333. I'm on Instagram at MikeMercado2333. Like us on Facebook at Mercado Airwaves. Download us anywhere you get your favorite podcast. Like, rate, review, and share us too while you're at it. It means the world to us at Mercado Airwaves. If you would like to hear our interviews ad-free and before anybody else with athletes and celebrities, go to patreon.com/Mercado Airwaves. We're also on Twitch, twitch.tv/Mercado Airwaves Network. You can subscribe to us on YouTube, youtube.com/MikeMercado2333, or search us Mercado Airwaves Network. We got a lot to get into today, but before we get to the news and notes around the sports world, here's a quick message.
What's up, friends? Mike here from Mercado Airwaves. If you missed any one of our past interviews with amazing guests like future Hall of Famer and pound for pound best fighter in the world, UFC flyweight champion Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson,
It's another day at the office, I get to go out there and test my skill.
to award-winning producer, director, and actor Orlando Jones,
Orlando, how you doing,
Hey,
buddy?
sir. I'm good, brother. How you doing?
and all the other interesting guests we've had on. Joining us today is director and writer David Ferrier.
Thanks so much, brother. I appreciate you having me on the show.
MMA legend Chael Sonnen joins us today.
Keep listening to your show. This is great. Thanks, my friend.
Just subscribe to us on iTunes at Mercado Airwaves. And while you're there, please like, review, and rate us, friends. It helps so much. We also have a Patreon for anyone who would like to support the show. Just visit us at patreon.com/Mercado Airwaves and see how you can get all of our interviews ad-free and before anyone else, and how you can get your business or company spotlighted on the show. Follow us on Twitter at mmercado2333. Like us on Facebook at Mercado Airwaves. Subscribe to us on YouTube, youtube.com/MikeMercado2333. And if you would like to see what we're up to behind the scenes, follow us on Instagram, MikeMercado2333. Thanks for listening and all the support.
Let's go ahead and jump into the scoreboard. That was everything in the NFL Week 9. We were kicked off Thursday night with a barn burner, you could say the least. The San Francisco 49ers 34 over the unbelievable, abysmal Oakland Raiders, who only scored 3 points. It was the Falcons 38, Washington 14, Minnesota 24, Lions 9. It was the Steelers 23, Ravens 16. It was the Chiefs 37 over the Browns 21. Jets lose to the Dolphins 6-3. It was the Bears all over the Bills 41-9. The Panthers beat the Buccaneers 42-28. Chargers beat the Seahawks 25-17. It was the Texans over the Broncos 19-17. The Saints beat the Rams 45-35, and we might have a new favorite in the NFC. It was the Patriots over the Packers 31-17 on Sunday Night Football, and on Monday night, the Tennessee Titans bounced back to beat the Dallas Cowboys 28-14. So why don't we go ahead and just talk about a little bit of the stuff before we get to the Bears game. Some interesting notes. The Falcons find another way to win. A lot of people are really high on them. They have a high-octane offense. They beat a Washington team that a lot of people were liking, that were kind of sneaky good in a bad NFC East. But I think Atlanta, with all the problems that they're having in the secondary with injuries, it's going to be tough for them because that NFC South is a mother. It is. It is crazy. And we'll look in the standings in just a little bit. But how about in Detroit and Minnesota? Minnesota staying right in there with the Chicago Bears, who are now in first place. We'll get to that in just a little bit. Minnesota looking like they might have turned around with some of the injuries and some guys coming back. Dalvin Cook looking pretty decent. But the Detroit Lions going ahead and maybe waving the white flag, trading Golden Tate to the Philadelphia Eagles. Some questions about that. Pittsburgh over the Ravens. That's an interesting one. Again, a divisional thing, but we'll see how that plays out later on the season. They traded wins at each other's stadiums, so some interesting stuff there. You have the Chiefs, who just seem to not want to lose. Some other highlights that I wanted to get into, obviously the Rams and the Saints. One of the most entertaining games you're going to see all season. And it's a great microcosm of what the NFL is right now, where a defensive stop here or there and a great quarterback with offensive weapons and just a little ingenuity between the coaches like a McVay and a Sean Payton. It's something to really admire, and I can't wait. That probably was the NFC Championship preview. And not just a preview, but there's a chance that we might have just seen who clinched home field throughout the whole NFC playoffs. And Sunday night, you had the Patriots over the Packers 31-17. I mean, a few things right here. Aaron Rodgers is so good, but he could only do so much, even continuously getting hit, and he's carried that franchise. But the one thing I really took from this game was we got to stop with these GOATs, and we got to stop with who's these all-timers type of things. Like Peyton and Brady never went head-to-head in the sense that they were matching blow for blow. Like Aaron Rodgers wasn't going against Tom Brady. Tom Brady wasn't going against Aaron Rodgers. They were just quarterbacking the teams going against each other. So it's I don't like that, because it all of a sudden seems like if one quarterback doesn't throw for 500 yards and 5 touchdowns, that he's not good. That's not the case. It's a team sport, and the eye test still tells you what it does. If in the conversation between Brady and Rodgers, Brady might be the best winner of all time in the National Football League. You got to give him that. And that automatically puts you on the GOAT conversation. But my eyes tell me how good Aaron Rodgers is. And not just how good Aaron Rodgers is, but talent for talent, blow for blow, pound for pound, he's better than Tom Brady. It's not, astronomical. It's not something, this isn't some, statement to be said that Aaron Rodgers is better than Tom Brady. No. But, these type of games, that's what they do. They force people to make these statements, and that's not fair because they're both all-timers. And instead of enjoying the moment, we're waiting just to be right about it. And, that in its own is just upsetting. But nonetheless, Tom Brady gets the win in the Patriots. they seem to always have it figured out. Just when we want to bury them, right? That's when they seem to be the most dangerous. And I don't want to talk about Monday night too much, but I needed the Cowboys to win a game, personal notes. And, of course, when you count on the Cowboys, that's when they disappoint you the most. So, that whole team's in disarray. How long until Garrett is fired? What are you going to do with Dak? You have no receivers. Amari Cooper comes out firing, and then there's nothing after that. So, that team is in a lot of disarray. And just, again, it's one of those things where everybody has a quarterback, except for only a few teams have a real quarterback. And Dak is one of those examples. You saw with Marcus Mariota, how week to week, we don't know if he's a franchise quarterback. And speaking of people thinking week to week, why don't we get into what happened in Buffalo as the Bears beat the Bills 41-9. Trubisky goes 12 for 20, 135 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Jordan Howard, 14 carries, 47 yards, 2 touchdowns. Anthony Miller with 5 catches, 49 yards. And that defense. The defense was everything that it needed. Adrian Amos with an interception. Kyle Fuller with an interception. Leonard Floyd with an interception. They came out and they absolutely put it on this team. And there's not a lot to take out of it because the Bills are a bad team. But you did not, what you take out of it is you ended up in first place. You won a game you're supposed to. You showed us a few things offensively. Guys on defense stepped up. And most importantly, the thing that you got to remember is Allen Robinson and Khalil Mack did not play. And now you have 3 divisional games in 11 days between the Lions and the Vikings. Those were must-wins that you just had. That Dolphins game is going to really bite you in the butt if you look back and you don't make the playoffs, along with that Green Bay game. But at this point, being 5-3, you can't really ask for anything else for the Chicago Bears. And there was a lot of, there's some throws Trubisky made that you're like, what are you doing? Especially that interception that he threw. But all in all, you can't complain about what you saw from that game because it was a beatdown. And there's not a lot to take out of it, except for the fact that they were able to rest players, and now they have a stretch where they're going to need to win 2 out of 3. If you win 2 out of 3 of those 3 divisional games in 11 days, including Thanksgiving, you're in good shape. And the Bears aren't a great team. They're a good team. And they've had things fall their way, and they've taken advantage of certain things. But at that token, the difference between a good team and a great team is what happened with that Dolphins and that Packers game. Great teams win those games. And it might bite the Bears back. It might bite them back. But at this point, there's nothing else you can complain about. You're seeing transformation, you're seeing growth, and you're seeing that there is a future with this team. And there are some players on this team. So I'm really excited about that. But it's going to be an interesting Week 10 as we take a look at the schedule for what's coming up in the NFL, and then we'll take a quick look at your standings. In Week 10, it will start off Thursday night in a heavyweight matchup as the Carolina Panthers take on the Pittsburgh Steelers. Sunday, it is Washington against Tampa Bay. You have the Cardinals versus the Chiefs, Bills at the Jets, Jaguars versus Colts, Lions and Bears, Saints versus Bengals, Patriots and Titans, Falcons and Browns. And to kick off our late afternoon games, it is Chargers, Raiders, Seahawks, Rams, Dolphins, Packers. And on Sunday night, it is the Cowboys and the Eagles, which will leave us to the main event of the week, the game of the year, Giants 49ers on Monday Night Football. And before we head into the octagon from this past week of a UFC pay-per-view, why don't we take a look at the standings in the NFL? Let's start in the AFC. In the AFC East is the Patriots in first place at 7-2, followed by the Dolphins at 5-4, the Jets at 3-6, and the Bills at 2-7. In the AFC West, it is the Chiefs at 8-1, the Chargers at 6-2, the Broncos at 3-6, and the Raiders at 1-7. In the AFC North, it is the Steelers at 5-2-1, with the Bengals at 5-3, the Ravens at 4-5, and the Browns at 2-6-1. Running off the AFC, in the AFC South, it is the Texans in first place, 6-3, the Titans at 500 at 4-4, the Colts at 3-5, and the Jaguars at 3-5. Heading into the NFC, you have Washington at 5-3, with the Eagles at 4-4, the Cowboys at 3-5, and the Giants at 1-7. In the NFC West, it is the 8-1 Rams, the 4-4 Seahawks, the 2-6 Cardinals, and the 2-7 49ers. In the NFC South, it is the Saints at 7-1, the Panthers at 6-2, the Falcons at 4-4, and the Buccaneers at 3-5. And finishing up the NFC, it is the Chicago Bears in first place at 5-3, Minnesota at 5-3-1, the Green Bay Packers at 3-4-1, and the Detroit Lions rounded off at 3-5. The one thing you want to notice, if I had to take a guess right now at this point, the real question a lot of people are asking, which division gets multiple teams in? So if you're asking me, typically I usually lean at the NFC South to get 3 teams into the playoffs. But this year, I think it's going to go 2-2. And I think one team is going to come from the NFC North, and I think one team is going to come from the NFC South. And the real question is, can the Green Bay Packers jump the Bears and the Vikings? I mean, they have a win over Chicago, so you know at least that much is in the play. I think the big thing is that they played a lot of top-heavy teams the last few weeks, and they got an easier schedule, including this week coming up against the Dolphins if you're the Green Bay Packers. And if you could just figure it out and just stay afloat, and every day Aaron Rodgers doesn't get hurt, and if he can get healthy, they're going to stay right there. So I think, it's going to come down to whether or not Chicago can win 2 of the 3 against the Vikings and the Vikings and the Lions coming up in the next 3 weeks, and what the Falcons do. Because if the Falcons stay hot, eventually that NFC South is going to start eating each other the way the NFC North is about to. So some interesting stuff in the NFL. It's never a dull time in the National Football League, that's for sure. Let us know, though, how did your fantasy team do this year? How is your favorite football team doing? And any thoughts, news? Did you change your guess on who's going to the Super Bowl? Who's your MVP leading into Week 10 of the NFL? Is it still Patrick Mahomes? Is it Drew Brees now? What about Todd Gurley? So many questions, and we're going to have it all here on Sports from the Couch on Mercado Airwaves. I'm Mike Mercado.
What's up, friends? Mike here from Mercado Airwaves. If you missed any one of our past interviews with amazing guests like future Hall of Famer and pound for pound best fighter in the world, UFC flyweight champion Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson,
Another day at the operator to go out there and test my skill.
to award-winning producer, director, and actor Orlando Jones,
Orlando, how you doing,
Hey,
buddy?
sir. I'm good, brother. How you doing?
and all the other interesting guests we've had on. Joining us today is director and writer David Ferrier.
Thanks so much, brother. I appreciate you having me on the show.
MMA legend Chael Sonnen joins us today.
Keep listening to your show. This is great. Thanks, my friend.
Just subscribe to us on iTunes at Mercado Airwaves. And while you're there, please like, review, and rate us, friends. It helps so much. We also have a Patreon for anyone who would like to support the show. Just visit us at patreon.com/Mercado Airwaves and see how you can get all of our interviews ad-free and before anyone else, and how you can get your business or company spotlighted on the show. Follow us on Twitter at mmercado2333. Like us on Facebook at Mercado Airwaves. Subscribe to us on YouTube, youtube.com/MikeMercado2333. And if you would like to see what we're up to behind the scenes, follow us on Instagram, MikeMercado2333. Thanks for listening and all the support.
If you would like to support Mercado Airwaves, visit us at patreon.com/Mercado Airwaves. Find us on iTunes at Mercado Airwaves. Keep up to date with the show on Facebook at Mercado Airwaves. You can see all of Nicole's work at typingwhentipsy.wordpress.com. You can follow Alex on Twitter at Mercado21Alex. Follow Mike on Twitter at mmercado2333 and on Instagram, MikeMercado2333.
UFC 230 is in the books. It came to us live from Madison Square Garden in New York City. It was Daniel Cormier versus Derrick Lewis for the UFC Heavyweight Championship. And the co-main event was former UFC champion Chris Weidman against Jacare Souza. And it was actually a really cool card. We'll go ahead and stay in the main card, just give you the results and some general thoughts of what we thought. Israel Adesanya defeated Derek Brunson. Israel's one of the best in the UFC. He's a killer. He's so hard to kind of grasp because of his size, his length, and just how powerful and quick he is. He's going to be a killer in the UFC, that's for sure. Carl Robinson wins against Jack Marshman in a unanimous decision. You had Jared Cannonier defeat David Branch in the second round via TKO, and that's another. Jared is another killer. The UFC is in good hands with some of these dudes. And this is the two that really got me, and this one really did, was Jacare defeated Chris Weidman in the third round via TKO, and a lot of people are complaining about the ref not stopping the fight after Jacare basically said, like, hey, he's done. I don't want to keep beating him up. But Chris Weidman looked like he was winning the fight. He was winning the first round. Jacare was probably winning the second round, and it just came down to it because Chris Weidman was going to be the number one contender for the middleweight title. He was going to fight the winner of that Whitaker fight in Australia coming up next year. And the fact that Jacare starched him and finished it is impressive. And to me, it was a comeback win. So, yeah, it sucks. And, I mean, Chris Weidman might make a jump up to light heavyweight just because it might be time. And that middleweight division is stacked. And in our main event for the UFC heavyweight champion, the champ, Daniel Cormier defeated Derrick Lewis in the second round via rear naked choke. And this was one of those fights where it all came down to the surprise big punch, come from behind big punch power that Derrick Lewis has. Because Daniel Cormier is one of the best, if not the best, fighter MMA has seen ever. Not named John Jones. And that argument only is something because of steroids. That's the reason why we don't consider John Jones on that level. And some people still do. Same thing with Anderson Silva. But DC, there's only certain guys who are going to beat him. And to be honest with you, this was one of those opportunities where Derrick Lewis, it was all things were set up for the perfect opportunity for a title fight. Derrick Lewis had the opportunity to catch him. He was coming off of a big win where he came back and won after losing the entire fight against Volkan. You have DC who was injured. You have DC who is trying to get this super fight with Brock. This is the perfect setup for that. And both guys made some money. Both guys got some exposure. And I think this is a win-win. And now it sets itself up for DC versus Brock. And a lot of people want to give crap to say, well, Brock doesn't deserve a title, this, and that. And, well, yes, some of it's true compared to the guys who are there every single day, like a Curtis Blades, for example. But if you're a UFC fan, if you're an MMA fan, if you're a DC fan, you want to see DC get paid. And you want to see the sport get exposed the way it does. And Brock Lesnar's no chump. Brock Lesnar showed up to fight some of the best the MMA and UFC world have ever come up with. Overeem, Frank Mir, Shane Carwin, Mark Hunt, Cain Velasquez. He's fought them all. He's beaten some of them. He is a tough dude. And it's no gimme for DC. But it's a payday for DC. And a lot of us MMA fans want to see that. And to be honest with you, I don't necessarily want to see the John Jones DC fight again, especially at light heavyweight. Because you're going to see Gustafsson versus John Jones for the light heavyweight championship. And that in itself is going to be a pretty good fight. Because Gustafsson has given John Jones way better fights than I think DC has. But if DC can, with this win against Derrick Lewis, and now goes to, let's say it goes against Brock in March, and maybe sometime at the end of March, if DC wins and he's thinking about retirement and he wants one more fight, you back up the dump truck and you say, DC Jones, part 3 for the heavyweight championship. That's the only thing that would do. Because if I'm John Jones, I agree with him in that sense. I don't need to fight this man again. I've beaten him twice. I've won whatever series we're going to have had, I've won. And I've done it decisively. And if you're DC, you're like, I'm the champ. I've done what this dude couldn't do because he couldn't stay clean. Both guys are right. And then, you have the people making the jokes of, well, DC doesn't want to fight a steroid user, but he'll go ahead and fight Brock Lesnar. Fair. But that Brock Lesnar payday is going to be everything. And it's a fun matchup to see two Olympic caliber wrestlers go at it. Two strikers go at it, in that Brock Lesnar can hurt DC just out of pure strength and size that he has. But a lot of people want to, and we're heading into that place where people want to badmouth the UFC. But we're heading into that place where we're about to head into that ESPN deal in 2019. We're going to get some fights, and they're going to be good. And nobody, so low-key what's going up in Toronto, so low-key of that Max Holloway, Brian Ortega fight is great for the sport. So we have some great matchups coming up. But UFC 230, some fun times in Madison Square Garden. And as always, one of our favorite, the champ DC, Daniel Cormier, continues to be a great representative of UFC and MMA. And for all you out there, we do have some cool stuff in the works right now with the UFC of some interviews we're working on that you can catch soon on the network. But until then, we actually have an interview with Chris Weidman. You can check that out on the podcast and in the archives to see. He was a really cool dude. And again, we can't wait to see what goes on for UFC 231, the fight nights, the Denver card that's coming up this week, and so much more. We have a lot of UFC and MMA news here on Sports from the Couch on the Mercado Airwaves Network. I'm Mike Mercado.
What's up, friends? Mike here from Mercado Airwaves. If you missed any one of our past interviews with amazing guests like future Hall of Famer and pound for pound best fighter in the world, UFC flyweight champion Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson,
Another day at the opera, I get to go out there and test my skill.
to award-winning producer, director, and actor Orlando Jones,
Orlando, how you doing,
Hey,
buddy?
sir. I'm good, brother. How you doing?
and all the other interesting guests we've had on.
Joining us today is director and writer David Ferrier.
Thanks so much, brother. I appreciate you having me on the show.
MMA legend Chael Sonnen joins us today.
Keep listening to your show. This is great. Thanks, my friend.
Just subscribe to us on iTunes at Mercado Airwaves. And while you're there, please like, review, and rate us, friends. It helps so much. We also have a Patreon for anyone who would like to support the show. Just visit us at patreon.com/Mercado Airwaves and see how you can get all of our interviews ad-free and before anyone else, and how you can get your business or company spotlighted on the show. Follow us on Twitter at mmercado2333. Like us on Facebook at Mercado Airwaves. Subscribe to us on YouTube, youtube.com/MikeMercado2333. And if you would like to see what we're up to behind the scenes, follow us on Instagram, MikeMercado2333. Thanks for listening and all the support.
If you would like to support Mercado Airwaves, visit us at patreon.com/Mercado Airwaves. Find us on iTunes at Mercado Airwaves. Keep up to date with the show on Facebook at Mercado Airwaves. You can see all of Nicole's work at typingwhentipsy.wordpress.com. You can follow Alex on Twitter at Mercado21Alex. Follow Mike on Twitter at mmercado2333 and on Instagram, MikeMercado2333.
The World Series has come and gone, but the news is never slow in Major League Baseball, and we have a few tidbits we want to get to before we wrap up shop today and we hit up our final story. It's some stories came out in The Athletic. One, that the White Sox seem to be dark horse favorites to not just land Manny Machado, but also Bryce Harper. And for all you Cub fans out there, it looks like the Cubs might not be in a position to make a run at either one of these guys. And of course, you got to take all this with a grain of salt because the Cubs weren't in the run for Yu Darvish as well last year and made a last-ditch effort that ended up signing the former Dodgers and Rangers pitcher. But taking what it is for face value, I've always said, and if you've listened to any of our interviews that we've done with Paul Shivari that you can check back in the archives, who will be a guest here on Sports from the Couch on the Mercado Airwaves Network very soon, the next couple of weeks as we get ready for GM meetings, winter meetings, and the offseason that is in MLB. But this report that The Athletic came out that Bryce Harper and Manny Machado might end up on the White Sox seems to make some sense, in the very least, that one of the guys could end up there. Historically, do the White Sox land these type of free agents? Absolutely not. And not a lot of teams do, to be frank. There's only a few of them that have. I mean, it's the truth about being a quote-unquote mid-market team when you're really not. But it's one of those things where you're not typically the big buyer, the big spender, that you don't get these guys. But if we live in this reality that this might happen, I think it's the thing they need to really jumpstart this rebuild. At some point, you can have a lineup with Manny Machado, Bryce Harper, and Eloy Jimenez. Come on. There's no doubt about it. You already are starting to build your pitching rotation. They've done the hard part. And I think we all can understand that pitching's going to get hurt, right? At this point, I can't see why the White Sox wouldn't be engaged in this. Now, I understand that there's a lot of blowback with the way Machado's playoffs went and, whether or not he's worth the $300 million that some people are talking about and the years that they were talking about. But there's a way around it. There's a way around these numbers. These front office executives make a lot of money to get these decisions and to be creative. And unlike the Chicago Bulls in Gar Forman and John Paxson, who are so uncreative, are so dull, are so hard-headed and in their own echo chamber that they can never see the next move to be made. This White Sox team, Rick Hahn, Kenny Williams, needs to be able to have some foresight that whether or not these guys are Mike Trout or the next second coming of Clayton Kershaw, whatever it may be, you got to put yourself in a position to win. Because drafting is nice. But look at the Cubs. The Cubs brought in guys to help win. Some people don't like the Jason Hayward contract. I get it. But he was part of what helped them win that World Series. Same thing with Aroldis Chapman. Same thing with John Lester. Same thing with Jake Arrieta. You have to bring in these guys. You have to bring in these contracts to try to help you win. Because it's not just built off of drafts. It's a big thing. Development is arguably the biggest thing. But it's who else you bring in. And I can understand some people saying that is Manny Machado going to be a quote-unquote, virus in the locker room. That's not for us to say. That's for the players. That's not our place. We can't assume anything. And if he has friends in the league and they just so happen to be in that White Sox locker room, it seems like a no-brainer to me. But if I am a White Sox fan, and if I am somebody who has any say in it, they are 100% in on this. And they have to be to get one of these two free agents. And on the Cubs side, I get it where the reports are coming that they can't do it. They can't pull it. With the luxury tax rules and how much money they already have on the books and the people they're going to have to pay eventually, I get it. But more importantly is you can't fall in love with your players now. And you got to be able to make some moves, whether it's Ian Happ, Albert Almora, Kyle Schwarber. If you can't get Bryce Harper, if you can't get Manny Machado, then you and the Theo Epstein and Jed Hoyer, which they are pretty known for this, they have to be creative. And they have to be able to get this team on the right track. And some other news before we finish up here for some baseball talk. Javi Baez did not win the Gold Glove. It went to LeMahieu. And Anthony Rizzo is splitting the Gold Glove at first base. But Javi Baez is in the running for Final 3 in the MVP race. So a lot of news still coming out from Major League Baseball, and we'll keep our eyes on everything as the GM meetings take place, as the winter meetings take place, as more of these rumors and these hot stoves start taking over the sports world as we get ready into this winter season. But we will have Paul Shivari on the show to break all this down in the next coming weeks. But some interesting stuff, and we'll have our finger on the pulse and keep you guys updated with not only just the up-to-date news, but our opinions on everything here on Sports from the Couch.
If you would like to support Mercado Airwaves, visit us at patreon.com/Mercado Airwaves. Find us on iTunes at Mercado Airwaves. Keep up to date with the show on Facebook at Mercado Airwaves. You can see all of Nicole's work at typingwhentipsy.wordpress.com. You can follow Alex on Twitter at Mercado21Alex. Follow Mike on Twitter at mmercado2333 and on Instagram, MikeMercado2333.
What's up, friends? Mike here from Mercado Airwaves. If you missed any one of our past interviews with amazing guests like future Hall of Famer and pound for pound best fighter in the world, UFC flyweight champion Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson,
Another day at the operator to go out there and test my skill.
to award-winning producer, director, and actor Orlando Jones,
Orlando, how you doing,
Hey,
buddy?
sir. I'm good, brother. How you doing?
and all the other interesting guests we've had on. Joining us today is director and writer David Ferrier.
Thanks so much, brother. I appreciate you having me on the show.
MMA legend Chael Sonnen joins us today.
Keep listening to your show. This is great. Thanks, my friend.
Just subscribe to us on iTunes at Mercado Airwaves. And while you're there, please like, review, and rate us, friends. It helps so much. We also have a Patreon for anyone who would like to support the show. Just visit us at patreon.com/Mercado Airwaves and see how you can get all of our interviews ad-free and before anyone else, and how you can get your business or company spotlighted on the show. Follow us on Twitter at mmercado2333. Like us on Facebook at Mercado Airwaves. Subscribe to us on YouTube, youtube.com/MikeMercado2333. And if you would like to see what we're up to behind the scenes, follow us on Instagram, MikeMercado2333. Thanks for listening and all the support.
Before we close up shop today, I wanted to touch on the Derrick Rose 50-point game that he had this past Thursday for the Timberwolves. And there's a few things I wanted to just kind of get off my chest, and I won't spend too much time about it. It's already kind of come and gone. He's even gotten hurt since then. But the one thing I really just wanted to hit into is there's two things that can be true about this scenario. You can be happy as a sports fan, as a Bulls fan, as a fan of sport, and a fan of perseverance and coming and overcoming obstacles like Derrick Rose did with these major knee surgeries that he's had over and over again, seeing his career possibly being ended over and over again, and seeing the hard work that was being put in to try to get back into the court. With that being said, the other thing can be true as well, to say he might be a disturbed young man. He might have been one of these guys who's made a lot of mistakes, and that deposition of the civil lawsuit is fact. So, what I say to sports fans is this. You can live in a reality that both things are true. You can enjoy the product, you can enjoy the accolades and the talent, but you don't excuse the man. And I think that's fair. I think it's fair to say I admire what happened that day when he dropped 50 points. I admire what he overcame to get back on that court because of injuries. And at the same time, you can say, I realize that that's a flawed individual who probably did some heinous things. And at the very least, did questionable things. Now, it's not for me to be a judge or a jury, but it is up to us to be aware of things. And that's all I'm saying. You don't have to villainize him. You don't have to love him. You don't have to make him a god, a deity, nothing like that. We as sports fans and fans of entertainment and pop culture and all this, we do that to ourselves. But we can enjoy the talent and the game and the story. But we don't have to be ignorant, and we don't have to have our head in the sands. That's just where I'm at the case. Thank you guys so much for joining us on this episode of Sports from the Couch on the Mercado Airwaves Network. I'm Mike Mercado. You can follow me everywhere in the universe. I'm on Twitter at mmercado2333. I'm on Instagram at MikeMercado2333. Like us on Facebook at Mercado Airwaves. You can subscribe to us on YouTube, youtube.com/MikeMercado2333, or look us up, Mercado Airwaves. We have podcasts everywhere. Just download us wherever you get them at Mercado Airwaves. And while you're at it, please like, rate, review, and share it. It means the world to us. You get our interviews ad-free and before anybody else with athletes and celebrities. Just go to patreon.com/Mercado Airwaves. We even have a Twitch, twitch.tv/Mercado Airwaves Network. For everybody here at Sports from the Couch and the Mercado Airwaves Network, enjoy the games. We'll see you next time. I'm Mike Mercado.
What's up, friends? Mike here from Mercado Airwaves. If you missed any one of our past interviews with amazing guests like future Hall of Famer and pound for pound best fighter in the world, UFC flyweight champion Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson,
Another day at the office, I get to go out there and test my skill.
to award-winning producer, director, and actor Orlando Jones,
Orlando, how you doing,
Hey,
buddy?
sir. I'm good, brother. How you doing?
and all the other interesting guests we've had on. Joining us today is director and writer David Ferrier.
Thanks so much, brother. I appreciate you having me on the show.
MMA legend Chael Sonnen joins us today.
Keep listening to your show. This is great. Thanks, my friend.
Just subscribe to us on iTunes at Mercado Airwaves. And while you're there, please like, review, and rate us, friends. It helps so much. We also have a Patreon for anyone who would like to support the show. Just visit us at patreon.com/Mercado Airwaves and see how you can get all of our interviews ad-free and before anyone else, and how you can get your business or company spotlighted on the show. Follow us on Twitter at mmercado2333. Like us on Facebook at Mercado Airwaves. Subscribe to us on YouTube, youtube.com/MikeMercado2333. And if you would like to see what we're up to behind the scenes, follow us on Instagram, MikeMercado2333. Thanks for listening and all the support.
If you would like to support Mercado Airwaves, visit us at patreon.com/Mercado Airwaves. Find us on iTunes at Mercado Airwaves. Keep up to date with the show on Facebook at Mercado Airwaves. You can see all of Nicole's work at typingwhentipsy.wordpress.com. You can follow Alex on Twitter at Mercado21Alex. Follow Mike on Twitter at mmercado2333 and on Instagram, MikeMercado2333.